Acne is not just a skin condition, it's a message from your body. As a physician, and as a woman who has worked with hundreds of patients struggling with acne, acne is rarely just about the skin. It is often a metabolic signal, an inflammatory response, a hormonal imbalance expressed on the surface. When women come into my office, teenagers, women in their 30s, even in their 40s, they usually ask, "Why is my skin fighting me?" And I gently explain, "Your skin is not fighting you. It is communicating with you." What is really happening inside the body? Acne forms when 4 processes occur simultaneously: increased sebum production, pore blockage, bacterial overgrowth, inflammation. But here is what many treatments ignore. Why is oil production increased in the first place? The answer is often hormonal and metabolic. When blood sugar rises sharply, insulin increases. When insulin increases, it stimulates IGF-1, insulin-like growth factor 1. This hormone increases androgen activity, and androgens stimulate the sebaceous glands. More oil, more clogged pores, more inflammation. As a doctor, I have seen this pattern repeatedly. Modern nutrition keeps insulin elevated all day long, and your skin pays the price. The first thing I ask my patients to remove: refined sugar. If you sit in my office and ask me what to eliminate first, I will always say sugar. Not reduce it, remove it. Refined sugar causes rapid blood glucose spikes, strong insulin surges, increased inflammatory markers, collagen breakdown, overactive oil glands. Within days, the skin becomes oilier. Within weeks, breakouts increase. I have witnessed dramatic improvement in patients who removed white sugar, pastries, sweetened beverages, candy, sweetened dairy products, energy drinks. Sugar feeds inflammation, and inflammation manifests on the skin. The silent damage, glycation. As a female physician, I must also speak about aging. When sugar binds to proteins in the body, it forms advanced glycation end products, AGEs. These compounds damage collagen, reduce elasticity, increase oxidative stress, worsen acne scarring. So sugar does not just trigger acne, it accelerates skin aging. If your goal is radiant skin, sugar must leave your diet. What I observe clinically after sugar elimination. In my practice, when patients fully eliminate added sugar, I typically observe, within 7 to 10 days, reduced oiliness, less redness, more stable mood and energy. Within 3 to 4 weeks, fewer inflammatory lesions, improved texture, smaller appearing pores. This is not cosmetic magic. It is hormonal stabilization. When insulin stabilizes, androgen stimulation decreases. When inflammation decreases, the skin heals. And that is where true radiance begins. The dairy connection. Why even healthy milk can trigger acne. As a female physician, I often see surprise in my patients' eyes when I bring up dairy. The doctor, I drink organic milk. I only eat Greek yogurt. I don't even eat that much cheese, and yet their skin continues to break out. Let me explain why. Dairy is not just food. It is a hormonal signal. Milk is not a neutral beverage. It is biologically designed to stimulate growth. Even organic milk contains natural hormones and growth factors that are meant to turn a small calf into a large animal in a short period of time. When humans consume dairy regularly, several things happen. Insulin levels increase, IGF-1 increases, androgen activity increases, sebum production increases, and as I mentioned in part 1, more sebum means more clogged pores. The IGF-1 mechanism. One of the strongest acne-promoting pathways involves IGF-1, insulin-like growth factor 1. Dairy consumption raises IGF-1 levels in the bloodstream. Elevated IGF-1 stimulates oil glands, increases keratin production in pores, promotes inflammation, activates androgen receptors. In simple words, dairy makes the skin behave as if it is under hormonal stimulation. For acne-prone individuals, this is significant. Why skim milk is often worse. Here is something that surprises many women. Studies show that skim milk is often more strongly associated with acne than whole milk. Why? Because when fat is removed, the relative concentration of certain proteins and bioactive molecules increases. Skim milk also tends to cause a stronger insulin response, so low fat does not mean skin-friendly. What I see in clinical practice: when patients remove dairy completely for 4 to 6 weeks, I often observe reduction in cystic acne, less jawline breakouts, decreased oiliness, fewer painful inflammatory lesions, especially in adult women with hormonal acne. Not every person reacts to dairy the same way, but in acne-prone individuals, dairy is one of the most underestimated triggers. What to eliminate temporarily? If acne is active, I usually recommend eliminating cow's milk, flavored yogurts, whey protein powders, ice cream, processed cheese products. Whey protein is particularly problematic because it strongly stimulates insulin and IGF-1. Many women who start protein shakes for health notice breakouts shortly after. What about fermented dairy? Some patients tolerate small amounts of fermented dairy better, such as kefir or plain yogurt. However, during active acne treatment, I prefer a complete elimination phase. After 6 to 8 weeks, we can reintroduce cautiously and observe, because glowing skin requires stability, not constant hormonal stimulation. Refined carbohydrates, the silent skin saboteurs. In my clinical practice, there is one pattern I see repeatedly. A woman tells me, "I don't eat sugar anymore," but when we review her diet, I see white bread, crackers, breakfast cereals, granola, rice cakes, pasta, whole grain packaged snacks. She removed candy, but insulin is still spiking every day, and her skin reflects it. Why refined carbohydrates act like sugar? When you eat refined carbohydrates, your body quickly breaks them down into glucose. White flour products, processed grains, and many packaged healthy snacks have a high glycemic index. That means rapid rise in blood sugar, rapid insulin release, activation of IGF-1, increased androgen activity, more sebum production. This cascade is biochemical, it is predictable, and it fuels acne. The glycemic load problem. As a physician, I explain this to my patients in simple terms. It is not just what you eat, it is how quickly it turns into sugar in your bloodstream. High glycemic foods include white bread, white rice, sweet breakfast cereals, pastries, cookies, chips, processed snack bars, sugary coffee drinks. Even some whole grain products are highly processed and behave like refined carbohydrates in the body. Your skin cannot distinguish between white sugar and a rapidly digested starch. If insulin spikes, inflammation follows. The inflammation link. High glycemic diets increase inflammatory cytokines. They increase oxidative stress. They increase oil gland activity. As a female doctor, I pay close attention to digestion. Many women with acne also report bloating, irregular digestion, sensitivity to certain foods. Processed food disrupts the gut microbiome. When gut bacteria become imbalanced, intestinal permeability can increase. This allows inflammatory molecules to enter the bloodstream. The immune system reacts, and the skin may become the visible target. Healing the skin often begins by calming the gut. Practical elimination phase. For active acne, I recommend for at least 6 to 8 weeks. Eliminate deep-fried foods, fast food, processed snacks, margarine, commercial baked goods, highly refined vegetable oils. Focus on whole foods, simple cooking methods, anti-inflammatory fats. Radiant skin is built from stable cellular membranes and balanced inflammation. That begins in the kitchen. Hidden food sensitivities, the gut hormone skin triangle. As a female physician, I have learned something important over the years. Not all acne is caused by obvious bad foods. Sometimes the trigger is subtle, personal, quietly inflammatory, and this is where the gut becomes central. Your skin reflects your digestive health. The gut and the skin are deeply connected through what we call the gut-skin axis. Inside your digestive tract lives a complex ecosystem of bacteria, your microbiome. When this ecosystem is balanced, inflammation is controlled, nutrient absorption improves, hormones regulate more smoothly, the immune system behaves appropriately. But when the gut becomes inflamed or imbalanced, the immune system becomes reactive, and acne, in many cases, is an immune response. Signs of hidden food sensitivities. Many women I see with persistent acne also report bloating, irregular bowel movements, fatigue after meals, brain fog, cravings, premenstrual worsening of skin. These symptoms suggest that certain foods may be triggering systemic inflammation. Common hidden triggers include gluten for sensitive individuals, eggs, soy, corn, highly processed dairy, artificial sweeteners. Not everyone reacts to these foods, but for some women, removing one hidden trigger changes everything. The intestinal permeability factor. There is a concept called increased intestinal permeability, sometimes referred to as leaky gut. When the gut lining becomes compromised, undigested food particles enter the bloodstream. The immune system reacts. Inflammatory molecules circulate. The skin becomes inflamed. I have seen cases where chronic jawline acne improved only after addressing gut inflammation. Because hormonal acne is not always purely hormonal. It can be inflammatory hormonal. The hormonal loop. Here is something important for women. The gut helps metabolize and eliminate excess estrogen. If digestion is sluggish or inflamed, estrogen clearance slows, hormonal imbalance increases, breakouts around the chin and jaw worsen. This is why supporting digestion is critical for radiant skin. The skin, the gut, and the hormones form a triangle. If one corner is unstable, the others respond. My clinical approach. When acne is persistent, I often recommend a 4 to 6 week elimination phase where we remove gluten, dairy, soy, processed foods, artificial sweeteners, and focus on whole vegetables, clean protein, healthy fats, adequate hydration, fermented foods if tolerated. Then we reintroduce one food at a time. The skin often tells us clearly which food was problematic. What happens when the gut calms down? Clinically, I observe